More snow, more cold, more desk work, more coffee. Winter has fallen. So earlier on in October, I was considering moving my colonies in early because I wanted to stop the bee flight and maybe preserve that nest. So I was anticipating on if I could find a cooler big enough to buy me the assurance of not overheating my shed if it warmed up later on in October. I was planning on moving basically exactly the same time that I moved my colonies in this year because the snow chased me in. So that leads to a question: what would the difference have been between me moving them in early through nice weather on a cooler or me moving them in being chased in by snow? Not a damn of a difference if you ask me, other than in both scenarios they both stopped flying. So the importance of a late season cleanse, well, we had a really good one middle of October, but that late season cleanse pushing November, how important is that? I guess maybe we'll find out because they've been moved in early all the same. But in people's mindset, what is the difference, right? Just because we moved them in earlier because of natural conditions doesn't mean that that late season cleanse is any less or more important than if I moved them in on artificial cooling. So just some things tossing around in my head. I much prefer this cold weather to a late warm spell in November. Water these horses too. Here. Come on, you two. Here. You can have this one. Come over here. Hey. Hey. Want one? Here. There you go. Get them some water right away. So anyway, that is what it is, as they say. So now my worry is in the shed. My worry is trying to set up the airflow a little bit better than I have been over the last forever. I'm noticing a warm interior shed like I did the other year, and when I noticed that the other year, it resulted in higher consumption of stores, I'm pretty sure, which led to colonies being very hungry by the end of March, which forced me out. So I want to try to cool down the center of that shed just to slow things down a little bit more. And I'm going to do that by redirecting airflow and trying to channel more of that cool air down into the center of the shed. So I don't want to get too carried away with it, because I end up with these little projects. I end up putting a lot of time into something that doesn't really work, and then I have to readjust it once I'm done by cleaning up this huge mess, and I don't want to do that. That's where simplicity is best sometimes, is you set it up, you let it work, and then you don't really have to take down all this infrastructure to convert that area back into another usable space. Putting the hunting shack this year. forget to till this land under. So it got up to 1 degree today. Right now it's at 0. So the fans are on full. And we are looking at a fairly uniform shed. So 6 degrees, just about 7 there on the walls, and within the shed, except for that one's a little high. We'll take a peek. So what I did was on the air inflow, I put up some barriers. So we have this barrier to stop the air from flowing against the wall and then around. So it stops the air and forces it either down or through. And on the other side, this is all I could find. But I have a piece of foam hanging from the ceiling. The air comes in, instead of bouncing off the wall and going straight down the side of the building. This is stopping the air and pushing it down into this area. So that's going to stop the airflow from flowing around the outside of the shed and get some real good airflow right through the center of this shed. Temperature, you know, around that 7 degrees. These bees are pretty chill. Well, there's a little bit of bearding, I guess. This time of year, things are pretty content. Nicely tucked in there. Just a brief overview here on our grain handling facility. I've been getting lots of emails asking what is going on here. So we have 4 bins, 25,000 bushels each. For our farm size, we have to move all these bins. We fill them twice. So we have contracts through futures contracts, delivery contracts through September, October to purge all these bins to be able to make space for the fall crops. And we took on another farm, so we built a 50,000 bushel bin here to be able to handle that capacity, which is being filled right now with corn. We grew a lot of the new farm to corn, so this is what the holdup was. building the bin and getting the infrastructure piped into the bin just to be able to handle the capacity off the land. Otherwise, we would have been done combining already, but we are waiting on contractors, which we're busy as heck building bins and plumbing in new drying systems to farmers. So we have a new drying system put in place here, which is just a complete delight. The old one was 140 bushels, I believe, batch. This is a 500 and just a little over 500 bushels, I believe, a continuous batch. So the capacity is 5 times, if not more, because of the efficiency that comes with this one. It's 2 stages, so it has 2 burners, one on the top, one on the bottom, so we can have the whole thing cranking. But how we have it set up is the top is the drying layer, and then the second is the cooling layer. So we have the top one. We have the top one set up to dry, and then as it cycles down to the second layer, we have just to finish off, like we have another 8 minutes on there just to finish off the drying process, then it cools, and then from there it cycles down into this dry bin, the white old shitty bin there. It holds 2.5 or 3 dryer loads, and once that is full, then our blowing system kicks in and moves the dry grain into the dry bin. That's what all this piping is, and that's what that sound is, it's the blower. So far I think it's about 55,000 bushels we've dried, and before what we used to do is our wet bins. Let's go take a look at the wet bins here. We spend the day combining, bringing in tough crops, and we fill our wet bins are those 3 hoppers there. So each one of those is 3,000 bushels. We use them all as wet bins now, so we have them set up to feed into this dryer. Looks like the dryers, looks like we're caught up now. They're out in the field combining. But what we used to do is fill 2 wet bins, and then we had the dryer kick out into that third, called it the dry bin, and from there we augered into the semi, then augered it into our bins. So now all we have to do is fill our wet bins, and it's an automatic process from the wet bins through the dryers into our storage capacity. Saved us a tremendous amount of work. It's a lot of grain hauling, a lot of grain moving, I should say. That blower, and it's just been a dream. So that has allowed us to take on more acres, has allowed us to grow more row crop, and has locked in and secured higher quality crop as we're able to keep those combines rolling. Now that we have 2 big cat combines, those 2 big cat combines equal about 6 deer. So it keeps our grain, it takes the grain off the field a lot quicker. And as we take it off quicker, we are taking it off a little bit sooner also, which allows us to lock in the quality, because if it's a little bit too wet, we dry it, and if it's just in between that too wet and dry, we put it straight on air. So just for the sake of convenience and the savings of crop quality, because we're able to combine more often, more of the time, this whole system, this whole handling facility is making its payments. At any rate, that's just a little bit of talk on what we invested into this year.